The millionaire is surprised to see a black man help a beggar woman. Rain poured relentlessly over the bustling city, drumming on the pavement like a heartbeat. In the thick of it all, a crowd surged along the sidewalk, umbrellas bobbing like colorful mushrooms. Somber faces moved quickly, each one lost in their own world, until a commotion broke through the mundane. A young mother, frazzled and soaked, stumbled as she tried to juggle her 2 children and clumsy grocery bags. She dropped her milk carton, and it cracked open. Onlookers barely raised an eyebrow. But then, there he was, Julio, a quiet man, tattered jeans, work boots, the kind of man who blends into the background. He stepped forward, eyes bright amidst the gray. People gawked. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, cutting through the thunder's roar. Everyone turned, surprised. A black man volunteering in the chaos? It was a rare moment of humanity, like finding a pearl in a muddy oyster. He knelt, helping her gather the spilled milk and scattered groceries. His hands worked deftly, the soft kindness in his movements seemingly out of place among the rushing world. Others noticed. Some whispered, "Why's he helping her? Does he even have enough for himself?" The judgment hung thick in the air, electric and palpable next to the storm. Through the frenzy, Julio threw an encouraging smile at the woman. "Don't worry, we got this." His chest tightened, not just from the rain, but from the weight of responsibility. His son Ben waiting at home, dreaming of a better life. A pang shot through him. Could this simple act of kindness change something? Then there she was, a silhouette of elegance and poise. Lisa, the CEO, struggling under the weight of her designer bags, rushed toward them. Her plane of existence, so separated from the flurry of ordinary life, collided directly with Julio's world. Thunder rumbled in the distance as she paused, glancing at Julio. "Thank you," she breathed, her voice mingling with the drumming rain. Moments swirled like a storm, the city blurred around them. As they exchanged smiles, a flicker of connection ignited. After the groceries were back in hand, Lisa's gaze, sincere yet hesitant, lingered on Julio. Something unspoken passed between them, a shared realization of how hard life can be. Days later, with that memory still pulsing in her mind, Lisa found herself reaching out, a job offer to Julio at her booming construction firm. It was a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters, a chance for freedom, for growth. As Julio stepped into his new role, he felt the rhythm of something new. He flourished, each day brighter than the last, and as their that bond, strong yet fragile, caught between hope and dread. One stormy night, a revelation poured out of Lisa like rain. She spoke of past betrayals, gripping her heart, exposing her loneliness. They shared vulnerabilities, and at that moment, a kiss sparked between them, a sudden flame igniting amidst the heavy, tense air. But as calm settled, shadows loomed closer. A figure from her past re-emerged, disrupting their fragile oasis. Would the kindness that brought them together also guide them through this impending storm? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without prior notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comment. I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. That kiss hung in the air, warm and charged. Just as Lisa whispered another word of comfort, a terrible sound shattered the moment. It was a crashing noise, like thunder, but sharper. Glass shattering from a storefront a few yards away, followed by frantic screams. Instinct kicked in. They both turned, eyes wide, hearts racing. A hooded figure erupted from the shop, clutching a bag. The rain glistened off the figure's dark clothes, matching the fear splattered across the faces of the crowd around them. Fearful whispers rippled through the crowd. People frozen, unsure. "What's happening?" someone yelled, a tremor in their voice. Julio's heart raced. He could feel it thumping in his chest like a drum. He stepped forward instinctively, a deep-rooted sense of protection surging within him. He wasn't sure why, but he felt compelled. The crowd began to back off, fear blinding them. They didn't know if they should intervene or run. Then, in a flash, the figure turned, revealing a face Julio recognized. His heart sank. It was Marcus, his brother. The very brother who had walked away from their family years ago, leaving behind chaos and heartbreak. Why was he here? Why now? "Julio!" Marcus shouted, his voice raw and desperate, eyes wild. "I need your help!" Every nerve in Julio's body screamed in confusion. "What do you want from me?" The anger in his voice cut through the rain, heavy and thick. "Please." Marcus looked around as if the shadows would swallow him whole. "I made some bad decisions, but I can't go back. Not now, not like this." More people were gathering, murmurs hissing through the crowd. The tension thickened like a thick fog. Lisa stepped back, trying to process the chaos rapidly unfolding. Her eyes darting between the two brothers. "Julio, you don't owe him anything," she pleaded, her voice rising above the noise. An empathic fear poured from her, urging him to step away. But Julio's heart felt torn in two. Memories flooded back. Their childhood, the laughter, the brotherhood that had crumbled. "You have no idea what you've done," he shouted back, voice cracking under the weight of emotion. "Do you know how hard it was for us?" Marcus didn't respond. Instead, he took a step forward, begging with his eyes. "I'm different now. I was caught up in things I shouldn't have been. But this? I just wanted to get out. Before he could finish, sirens blared in the distance, wailing like banshees. A wave of panic surged through the crowd. People began to scatter, shoving past Julio and Lisa. "Go!" someone screamed. "Get away from here!" The red lights flared in the rain, illuminating desperate faces. Everything blurred together. The rain-soaked street, the distant shouts, the chaos of humanity. Julio's heart raced, a mixture of anger and fear. He could feel Lisa's hand grip him, grounding him. But all he could see was Marcus, lost, desperate, spiraling into unseen depths. "Julio, you have to trust me," Marcus pleaded, desperation etched into his features. But would he? Torn between loyalty and the past, there was no time to think as a police car pulled up, lights flashing, officers jumping out. The storm wasn't just outside, it was in them. And then it happened, the jarring moment that froze time. In the very next breath, Julio's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He glanced down at the screen, and his blood ran cold. A message from an unknown number. "I know what you did, and I'm coming for you." His breath caught in his throat. He looked up, eyes wild. "What have you done, Marcus?" Time stilled, and the air was thick with suspense and apprehension. Everything he thought he knew was unraveling before him. Could the kindness that brought them together now tear them apart? The moment hung in the air, thick and electric. Julio's heart thundered, pumping sharp fear through his veins. He looked at Marcus, and the years flew back like a warped film reel. Laughter, secrets, anger. But this was chaos. Sirens wailed closer, echoing like demons seeking their prey. People scrambled, shouting, pushing past him and Lisa. Their faces twisted in shock, reflecting a mix of horror and intrigue. "Julio, you can't just stand here." Lisa's voice cut through the panic, a lifeline thrown against the tide. But he couldn't look away from Marcus. What have you gotten into, man? Desperation twisted Marcus's features. I swear, I'm not doing this for me. I just need— But before he could finish, a woman's scream pierced the night. A figure slipped through the crowd, darting suddenly, clutching something shiny that glimmered like malevolence. In a split second, she lunged at Marcus, thrusting a blade that glinted ominously. "No!" Julio screamed, instinct kicking in as he lunged forward, heart shattering in his chest. Time slowed as he watched Marcus turn, eyes wide in shock. The scuffle turned chaotic, the blade glinting again, cold and menacing. It was all a blur. The screams, the chaos, bodies shoving past, and then the sickening thud of flesh hitting flesh. A collective gasp rippled through those gathered. Julio caught a glimpse of crimson splattering against the gray concrete as Marcus staggered back, clutching his side. His eyes met Julio's, wide and full of pain, betrayal, fear, desperation. Marcus. That single word hung, heavy with 1,000 unsaid things. Julio's heart dropped as he rushed to his brother's side, the world melting into a harsh background of chaos. Sweat mingled with the cold rain, mixing bitterness with urgency. He touched Marcus's wound, felt the warmth seep through his fingers. Why now? Hot tears burned in his eyes. "Help!" Marcus gasped, breaths coming in ragged gasps. "I didn't know, I swear." But Julio's heart shook. Was this the real Marcus? The brother he remembered? Or this shadow clinging to him now? Lisa stood frozen, wide-eyed horror etched on her face. The police were close now, a frantic blur of lights and voices. "Julio, we need to move!" she yelled, grabbing his arm. But he couldn't. The weight of so much past pressed down on him. "He's my brother, Lisa." Anguish lined his voice, an echo of all they lost. The crowd surged back as the police closed in. Officers barking orders. "Get back! Everyone stand back!" The intensity rose like a wave, hard and unyielding. Then the twist hit like a thunderclap. Out from the darkness, a figure emerged. A woman with fiery red hair, eyes glinting like daggers. "Marcus!" she shouted, voice ringing clear. "You've made a huge mistake!" Everyone froze, eyes widening. Who was she? What connection did she have? The gasps around them grew, whispers spilling like a storm. Suddenly, it made sense. Too much sense. Julio's heart sank. Then, the woman turned to him, locking her gaze onto his. "You don't know the truth. None of you do." The rain beat harder against the pavement, a frantic rhythm, as if the world itself was holding its breath. All eyes were on her, the tension stretched like a taut wire. "Tell him, Marcus! Tell him the truth!" She stepped closer, shadows dancing across her face. "What truth?" Julio's voice trembled, filled with fear. "What are you talking about?" In that moment, the storm inside him surged, and all the pieces began to crash together, a puzzle torn apart. Secrets clawed at the edges of his reality. "You don't even realize what's at stake." The woman's voice shook the very ground beneath him. Everything felt precarious. The rain, the panic, the truth lurking just beneath the surface. As sirens blared and chaos erupted around them, Julio felt the world spin. Would he be ready to face whatever truth lay in the shadows? Or would this storm tear apart everything he knew? Julio's pulse raced, a drumbeat of chaos reverberating in the air around them. Every breath felt heavy, thick with fear as he stared at Marcus, his brother's wild eyes flickering between desperation and something darker. The rain poured harder, masking the truth swirling in the storm above. "What truth?" he demanded, looking from Marcus to the fiery-haired woman who stood with a storm of her own, clearly holding secrets of her own. "Tell him what you've done!" she shouted again, voice rising above the din. The crowd shivered, caught between horror and intrigue. "I never made a choice for this, Julio," Marcus shouted, his voice cracking. The urgency in his tone felt familiar, a call for help that struck Julio's chest. "I just wanted to protect you. To protect Mom." "From what?" Julio snapped, anger swelling. "I deserve answers, Marcus." "If only it were that simple," the woman pressed, stepping closer, eyes ablaze. "You don't understand. The truth can shatter everything." Julio's heart thumped painfully in his chest. As he searched Marcus's eyes, he slipped further into a darkness he couldn't comprehend, layers of lies too deep to untangle. "What are you hiding?" But just then, out of the chaos, a sudden scream pierced the air, sharp, desperate. All heads turned toward the sound, urgency turning the crowd's shock into fear. A small child, lost in the fray, had wandered too near the edge of the commotion. Clutching a teddy bear, wide-eyed with terror, she stood directly in the path of an oncoming officer, moving fast, shouting orders, blue lights flashing. "Watch out!" Julio yelled, instinct igniting in him as he lunged forward, arm outstretched. A heartbeat passed, and then everything exploded in a thrilling chaos. As Julio reached for the child, everything swirled. The rain, the sirens, the terrified faces. In that very moment, time split like a fragile thread. A gunshot rang out. A deafening noise cut through the night. Julio fell, arms outstretched. Was it him, or was it Marcus? The roar of the crowd shifted into a muffled silence. The world blurred. Julio felt a heat pass through him, sharp, blinding. He landed hard on the pavement, vision splintering, the warmth pooling beneath him mixing with cold rain. Shock gripped him. Panic roared in the air as faces twisted in horror. "Julio!" Lisa screamed, darting to his side, kneeling in the rain-soaked street as blood soaked through his shirt. "Stay with me, please." But all he could hear was Marcus's piercing cry. Confusion painted across his features. "I didn't do it!" His voice shattered like glass. "Why? Why would you?" Julio gasped, the weight of betrayal curling around him, the taste of metal in his mouth. Then came a revelation, winding through the confusion like a dark shadow. The woman with the fiery hair stepped forward, unyielding, eyes piercing. "You have to understand, nothing is as it seems." Suddenly, with raw intensity, she ripped open her coat, revealing a badge beneath, a symbol of authority, yet tainted with something sinister. "I'm not who you think I am. I've been watching you." The world spun again, a whirlwind of uncertainty crashing down. Who was she? What had she done? Julio's heart sank. Everything he believed was unspooling like thread. Truth, loyalty, family, all tangled in a dark mess he couldn't comprehend. The sirens wailed louder, echoing in his mind like a relentless reminder of the chaos cascading around him. "I won't lose you too." Lisa's voice drifted, desperate and trembling. And just like that, the strings connecting their lives tightened and pulled. The rain fell harder as Julio's vision blurred. Shadows swirled, and he gasped for breath. Were these the last few moments he would know? "Julio, hold on!" But the world faded, melting into nothingness, leaving only a cacophony of chaos swirling where clarity once lived. Would he ever uncover the truth? Would the storm ever settle? Julio's world blurred and pressed in on him. His breath was a ragged whisper, drowning in the chaos that pulsed around him. The rain cascaded like a waterfall from the heavens, drenching the street as Lisa cradled his head, her panic tangible in the quivering of her hands. "Stay with me, please." She pushed back her fear, clinging to him as if her life depended on it. He could hear the distant wail of sirens, each shrill note cutting through the air, a reminder of the chaos spiraling beyond their small tumult. Everything felt heavy. The weight of betrayal from Marcus, the weight of desperation from the woman, and the weight of fear tightening around his chest. Then, suddenly, an explosion erupted in the distance, a sound not unlike thunder, but sharper, more deadly. Glass shattered, metal crunched, and frantic screams erupted, the crowd's terror morphing into a stampede as people pushed away, eyes wide and wild. Lisa's grip tightened like a vice. What's happening? Horror etched in her features as they became spectators. Just then, another figure appeared, a man shoving through the crowd. He was drenched, face obscured by the rain, but Julio recognized him, the unmistakable outline of Officer Richards, the cop who had once been a friend, now as rigid as a statue. "Julio!" he shouted, desperation in his voice as he pushed towards them. "Get back! We have to clear the area!" The urgency crackled in the air. "Julio, the child! We need to help her!" Lisa pleaded, frantic. The little girl still stood there, lost in a sea of panic, clutching her teddy bear, her eyes wide with fear. But Reyes, the officer, was already shouting orders. "Step away. There's a situation here." As Julio's vision locked onto the child, everything felt surreal. His heart plummeted. The woman's words echoed in his mind, truths hidden beneath layers of lies. But before he could move, the storm broke again. With a deafening roar, a black vehicle screeched into the scene, tires screeching on the wet pavement. Instant chaos followed. Doors flung open, and masked figures emerged, equipped and armed, shadows of intimidation. The crowd gasped. A wave of fear slamming shut all their exits. "Everyone down!" a rough voice barked, and the world spiraled into chaos as people dropped to the ground, scrambling to escape. "No, Julio!" Lisa screamed, shielding him as gunshots ricocheted through the air, sharp and terrifying. Time slowed in that moment, the sounds bending and twisting. Julio slipped from her grasp, scrambling to his feet, adrenaline surging. For an instant there was silence, just the heavy beating of his heart in his ears. Then he turned, breath hitching. But then, something unimaginable happened. Marcus surged forward, face twisted with desperation. "No, you can't do this!" he shouted at the masked attackers, the fear radiating off him. "I'll fix it. I promise." The air froze. Everyone turned, disbelief etched on their faces. Marcus, the brother Julio thought he had lost, stepped forward, arms outstretched, ready to face a future tethered to shadows. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Julio yelled, the panic coursing through him like fire. "Stop!" one of the masked figures barked, leveling a weapon at Marcus's chest. "You're in way over your head." Before Julio could comprehend or scream, the gun fired, but not at Marcus. The shot rang out and struck the woman, the one who had been at the center of it all. She reeled back, eyes wide, mouth opening in shock, as she crumpled to the ground. A gasp surged through the crowd like wildfire. "No, no, what have you done?" Julio screamed, racing toward her, heart pounding, genuine confusion grinding through them. But as he reached her side, everything shifted. Her hand clutched at the ground, revealing a shiny badge half hidden in her coat. A badge that didn't belong to any local department. It was federal. "What?" Julio stammered, his mind swirling. But before he could piece it together, her eyes met his, unyielding, though weak. They were not ordinary. They were laced with secrets and shadows that ripped open layers he had never expected. "You haven't seen the truth yet, Julio." Then her breath shuddered and darkness consumed her, leaving nothing but unanswered questions swirling in the rain. The storm had only just begun. The world blurred again, relationships shattered, and a single truth hung like fog. Who was really in control? What game had they all unknowingly joined? As sirens wailed and questions loomed, Julio couldn't shake the sinking feeling that every thread of trust had just been severed. And the storm inside him was nowhere near over. Julio stared at the lifeless form of the woman on the ground. The rain mingled with the blood, a cruel cocktail of horror spilling onto the sidewalk. Lisa's fingers trembled as she pressed against the wound in his side, desperation in her eyes. "Stay with me." Her voice was urgent, becoming almost a chant, fighting against the escalating chaos. But as she leaned closer, a spark of panic surged through him, blurring the edges of reality. The masked figures were still. Then, the air shifted. As if on cue, the tension crackled like static before a storm. The distant murmurs from the crowd morphed into a cacophony of gasps as a sharp crack split the air. Time froze, a single shot rang out. Julio's heart lurched. "No!" he screamed, but he was too late. The focus shifted sharply as another vehicle skidded into view, tires screeching, and a familiar face stepped into the commotion. A man dressed in dark clothing, a cold smile playing on his lips. He exuded an air of authority, but something in his eyes sent an icy chill down Julio's spine. "Looks like I arrived just in time," he said, voice low and dripping with disdain. The crowd parted around him, revealing something that made Julio's blood run cold. A trained squad followed, the reek of danger clinging to them like a second skin. The realization crashed over him like a wave. He recognized that man, Vincent, a face from the darker chapters of their past, a figure who had shifted the balance of power in their neighborhood years ago. He was the architect of chaos, the one who thrived on fear. "What are you doing here?" Marcus called, a mix of defiance and desperation evident in his voice. "You shouldn't be involved." Vincent's smile widened, revealing predatory intent. "Oh, but I think I should be." He nodded towards the fallen woman. Seems like she was attempting to play both sides. Before anyone could process the implications, he took a step forward, and with a flick of his wrist, a gun gleamed in the low light. "You see, you've been making some very interesting enemies. All this chaos?" He gestured dramatically to the scene around them. "It's only just begun." Time warped. Julio's eyes darted from Vincent to the woman, then back again. The pieces began to align in a terrifying way. She had been watching them, sunlight and shadows intermingling in their lives. "What did you know?" he whispered, the weight of the truth pressing against him. Vincent let out a laugh, deep and echoing, a wolf among sheep. "She was a rat, Julio, a rat in my yard, digging too deep. And now she's gone, just like you all will be if you continue to prod where you don't belong." Screams echoed, but they grew quieter, like fading echoes in a cavern. The crowd was subdued by fear, eyes wide as reality turned upside down. Everyone around them clenched their fists, faces pale, murmuring frantic questions. "Who are you?" someone yelled, stepping forward with trembling bravado. Vincent's gaze turned icy. "I'm the one keeping this city in check." His voice dripped with menace. "And I'm not alone." Suddenly, from behind him, 3 others stepped forward, wearing the same unsettling confidence, their goal clear. Each of them held something in their hands. Julio's heart sank again as he recognized their intentions. A surge of instinct coursed through him. "Protect Lisa! Protect Marcus! Get back!" he shouted, but his voice felt small against the rising tide. Then, in an explosive moment, the ground shook, sending everyone tumbling. Desperate shouts flooded the air. Julio turned as reality shattered. Everything he thought he knew disintegrated like thin glass. "Julio, get down!" Lisa's voice pierced through the mayhem. But before he could react, a blinding light enveloped the scene, followed by a deafening roar, eruption of sound. Lights flickering, as if the very essence of their lives was collapsing. The smoke curled around them, hot and thick. The figures staggered back, confusion dancing across their faces, the true nature of the chaos revealing itself in the swirling dust. As the haze settled, emotions hung thick like fog. People turned, breathless and shocked, faces alight with fear and disbelief. But in that nebulous moment of chaos, something unexpected happened. A hand reached out through the smoke, a trembling hand that gripped Julio's shoulder. It was a woman he recognized from the shadows, one he never knew was linked to Vincent's world. "Julio, you don't understand the depths of this," she cried, desperation set in her voice, dripping with urgency. "We're all in danger. You need to know the truth." As the reality pressed in like a vice, Julio felt his world tilt. Everything was about to change, and in that swirling vortex of panic and revelation, he grasped the one unshakable truth: nothing would ever be the same. What did she know that would alter the course of their lives forever? Julio stood there, the chaos swirling around him, his heart pounding like a drum, every breath coming harder. Lisa's grip tightened on his shoulder, desperately pulling him back from the brink of shock. The woman's lifeless body was a grim focal point, a reminder of everything then. A bitterness filled the air, thick and suffocating. "Julio, please!" Lisa's voice cracked, a mixture of fear and urgency. But before he could respond, the rain suddenly stopped. The world around them held its breath, the silence echoing louder than any scream. The masked figures paused, their eyes darting nervously, uncertainty painted across their faces. Vincent stood firm, basking in the unexpected silence, as if he were conducting the chaos. And then it hit, like a lightning bolt slicing through the tension. The fiery-haired woman wheezed, struggling to breathe, her eyes darting feverishly. "Julio!" she rasped, clenching his wrist, desperately pulling him closer. "You don't understand. You have to remember." "What?" he snapped, confusion breeding a dangerous anger. "Remember what?" But before she could answer, a blinding light flashed, illuminating everything. In that moment, the air thrummed with energy. Julio shielded his eyes instinctively, a powerful wave washing over them. He blinked, trying to adjust. Then, an explosion swept through the crowd, not of sound, but of realization. The masked figures staggered back, and Vincent's confident smirk faltered. "You think this is a game?" he spat, eyes narrowing as his grip on his weapon slackened. But the flash had revealed something more. The woman's badge, what Julio had thought was government, shifted into something else, a symbol of something he couldn't grasp. "You're not?" he whispered, horror creeping up his spine. The woman's eyes held a dark gleam. "No, I'm not who you think." Suddenly, from across the chaos, Marcus cried out, "Julio, don't listen to her, she's a—" But another explosion roared, shaking the ground beneath them. People screamed, panic igniting again. In the confusion, a figure darted forward through the dense crowd, not masked, but familiar. Ben. His innocent face was framed by wild curls, eyes wide with terror. "Dad!" he shouted, crashing into Julio's side, gripping him like a lifeline. His arrival changed everything. All the chaos stalled, shifting focus onto the child. "Ben!" Lisa gasped, rushing to pull him close. But then, the woman raised her hand, eyes locking onto Ben. "My son!" she screeched, voice cracking with urgency. Time stopped again. A wave of confusion washed over Julio. "What? No, it can't be." Ben recoiled, eyes darting between the adults, lost and scared, his grip on Julio tightening. "Who is she, Dad?" Julio felt the ground shift beneath his feet, pulling him into an abyss of betrayal and revelation. "Stay back!" he shouted, instinctively positioning himself in front of his son. "Enough!" Vincent thundered, the menace returning. "This is getting out of hand." But the truth hung heavy in the air. The woman, the badge, the chaos. Everything they had fought against shifted in an instant. Nobody knew who to trust anymore, loyalty and blood intertwining in a tangle that threatened to ensnare them all. "Your mother," The woman's voice trembled, reaching for Ben with trembling fingers, desperation firing her words. She thought I was dead. Everything hung in the air, thick and charged. It was a shocking truth that shattered the tenuous grasp Julio had on reality. The people around them fell silent, breathless in disbelief. Ben's eyes filled with confusion and hurt. "What do you mean?" And just like that, the storm unraveled further, spiraling into a cavernous pit of questions. Why had she really been there? What kind of secrets had they been buried under? Julio's heart raced. Everything he thought he knew slicked away. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Ben, for his family. How could he protect them from the storm that just kept growing? The rain started again, pouring down like tears from a wounded sky, oblivious to the turmoil in their hearts. And as they faced the woman, the mother thought lost forever, Julio knew that the greatest battle was still ahead. Would he be strong enough to face it? Julio stood there, heart hammering in his chest. The rain pelted down, like nature weeping for the chaos around them. Ben's tiny hand gripped his tightly, innocent eyes wide with confusion. Lisa hovered protectively, a fierce look etched on her face. "Mom," Ben whispered, glancing between the woman they had just revealed and his father. "Is she really?" His voice trailed off, uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. The woman's breath quickened, a mixture of hope and fear flashing across her face. "Yes, sweetie, I'm your mother. I thought I lost you." Tears threatened to spill down her cheeks. "Lost? You left us!" Julio's voice cracked under the strain. The betrayal tore at his heart. "I had to protect you," she gasped, desperation clawing her words. "From the people who wanted to hurt us." But before any more could be said, another shot rang out, slicing through the swirling emotions. Everyone flinched as the sound echoed through the night. Chaos erupted again, the kind of terror that coils tight in your gut. "Get down!" shouted one of the masked figures, panic evident in their eyes. This wasn't just about the woman anymore. It was a full-blown failure of everything they thought they understood. A flash of red caught Julio's eye, a bloody smear trailing from the officer who was just moments away from them. No, not him. The realization hit like a punch in the gut. The officer fell to the ground, clutching his side, writhing as he struggled to breathe. "Help me!" he gasped, face pale against the drenched pavement. "Run!" someone screamed, pushing past Julio. The crowd surged, people scrambling over each other, fear igniting the air. "They're coming for us!" "Mom!" Ben screamed, his small voice shaking. "Stay close," Lisa shouted, trying to shield Ben with her body. In that brief moment, the chaos slithered into clarity. It felt like a scene frozen in time, the officer gasping, the masked figures shifting from shock to aggression. Julio torn between the burning anger and the chill of a lost family. "Julio," Marcus called, breaking through the turmoil. "You have to help him. He might know something." But the officer, he was the same man who had once been their ally, a shield against the chaos. "What happened?" Julio shouted, scrambling towards him, even as the storm threatened to sweep them all away. "I didn't know," the officer gasped, eyes darting nervously. "Vincent, he's playing us all. This is bigger than we thought." Before Julio could process the implications, something shifted behind him. The fiery-haired woman's expression morphed, suspicion creeping into her features. "You're with them," she shouted, her voice ringing with accusation, pointing at the officer. "What?" came a collective gasp. The crowd froze, caught between hope and uncertainty. "No, I swear," the officer cried, but it was too late. A bloody hand grasped at the air, as if trying desperately to pull himself back from darkness. And then, the truth hit like a tidal wave. "I know who you are," the woman shouted back, a sudden realization dawning on her. Julio's heart sank. "What do you mean?" he pressed, emotions raging like a high tide. "I'm not just here for Ben," she shouted. "I was sent to find you, all of you." Before anything else could ripple through the air, the crowd erupted once more. As Vincent stepped forward from the shadows, a smug smile plastered across his face that twisted like a knife in Julio's gut. "You've got it all wrong, dear. She's not your mother. She's been manipulating you from the very start." The world erupted into chaos. Julio's heart pounded wildly in his chest. Was everything that had just been revealed a lie? Doubts spiraled as he scrambled to hold on to what little sanity remained. Everything felt false, hidden behind veils of deceit. "Julio!" Lisa's voice broke through the fog, but it felt distant, a mere whisper in the raging storm. As the truth twisted and turned inside him, Julio realized they were standing on the edge of a precipice. Would he lose everything? Would he finally uncover the tangled web of lies? The crowd surged one last time, panic ripping through the air. And with one final scream, echoing in the furious night, the darkness pulled them into its embrace. Julio stood frozen, the chaos enveloping him like a thick fog. The masked figures lingered, weapons drawn, but time paused. Everyone held their breath, caught between shock and confusion. "Stand down," Vincent barked, the air heavy with menace. "You don't want this to end badly." From across the street, the wounded officer gasped, clutching his side, whispering urgent words that melted into the tumult. "Vink!" But a second shot rang out, and he fell silent, the blood pooling around him stark against the rain-soaked pavement. A scream erupted, raw and filled with terror. The fiery-haired woman staggered back, eyes wide. "What have you done?" she cried, panic radiating off her. "They'll come for you all now." Ben clutched Julio's arm tighter, eyes darting between the chaos. "Dad," he whimpered, confusion crashing down on him like waves. "Everyone, stay back," Lisa shouted, pushing Ben behind her, hands trembling but determined. "We need to get out of here." But just as Julio opened his mouth to respond, everything exploded. A blinding light surged, illuminating the street more vivid than day. People shielded their eyes, the brilliance washing over them like an ocean wave. And then, silence fell. The kind of silence that pulls you in, heavy and oppressive. When the light faded, a figure emerged from the shadows, stepping calmly into view. Someone Julio recognized. Maya, his sister. "What? How are you here?" Julio stammered. The world spun, confusion mixing with something that felt terrifyingly familiar. She had disappeared years ago, leaving nothing but unanswered questions and pain. "I couldn't let this happen," she said, voice steady but shaking with unspent emotion. "I had to come back. They've been lying to you." "What? Who's lying?" Julio shouted, frustration boiling over. "You left us. You chose to run." But Maya shook her head fervently. "No, you don't understand. I had to protect you. This goes deeper than blood." And then the ground shifted beneath them, as Vincent's expression changed, a flicker of fear darting through his menacing facade. "She's a liability. We can't let her interfere." "What are you talking about?" Julio felt like the earth had pulled the carpet from under him. He had been juggling truths, each one heavier than the last. "What is going on?" And then it happened. Maya raised her hands, and a burst of energy surged through the air. It crackled, electric and alive, before shooting towards Vincent. The moment it struck, a shockwave rippled outward, sending everyone sprawling to the ground. Julio felt the blast grip him, the electricity heavy in his bones. He watched in disbelief as Vincent staggered back, horror painting his features. Then came a sound, a low rumble that grew louder, pounding like a drum. It felt like the city itself turned to quake beneath them. "Stop! What did you do?" Vincent cried, eyes wide as the ground heaved. But Maya moved closer, eyes fierce, voice steady. "I'm here to take back what he stole, and I will not let him hurt you again. This isn't over." Just then, the atmosphere shifted. The air throbbed, humid and thick. An unseen force whirled around them, a tempest of truth unleashed as memories crashed against Julio, flooding him with images he had buried deep. The screams of their childhood, buried secrets, the eyes of the man who had haunted their family. Everything converged in that single devastating instant. "What truth?" he gasped. But before Maya could answer, the ground ruptured with a violent shudder. With wild, piercing screeches, shadows poured forth from the fissure, tendrils of darkness reaching for them. "Run!" Lisa screamed, pulling Ben behind her, racing away as the shadows twisted and grabbed, pulling at the fabric of reality. They didn't know where to escape, but Julio knew one thing. The storm wasn't just outside, it was within them. A storm that promised to unveil everything he thought was true. "Julio, trust me!" Maya shouted as they sprinted. That frantic urgency igniting a flame of hope amidst the chaos, blinding and unbearable. But as they ran, he couldn't shake the feeling that every step took them closer to a truth that might rip apart everything they hold dear. What other shadows waited beyond the one lurking at their feet? Maya's presence felt like a whirlwind, sweeping through the chaos that threatened to consume them all. As shadows writhed at their feet, she moved with purpose, eyes fierce and determined. "You have to listen to me," she urged, glancing. "Secrets?" Julio echoed, his heart racing. "What's really happening?" His voice trembled, not ready for another revelation. Before Maya could respond, Vincent staggered to his feet, fury raging in his eyes. "You think you can just walk back into our lives? You've made a grave mistake." The prejudice in his voice cut like a knife. Julio's instincts kicked in. He hurled himself between Vincent and Maya. "You're not hurting her again," he shouted, body tense, heart pounding. He felt the weight of Ben's small hand on his back, grounding him. Lisa moved forward, protective and fierce. "We're not backing down." She glared at Vincent, her face a mixture of anger and fear. "This ends now." And then, boom, the air exploded. Thunderous chaos rippled through the crowd as Vincent's followers scrambled, chaos consuming them. The world felt as though it was collapsing, the ground shaking underfoot. Julio shielded Ben, enveloping him with his body. Eyes wide, searching for safety in the madness. Maya's voice cut through the din, strong and clear. "We have to go, now." She grabbed Julio's arm, pulling him towards the corner of the street, engulfed in shadow. "Trust me." Every instinct screamed at Julio, but he had endured pain and betrayal for far too long. He'd fought for family, for safety, for hope. He took a deep breath, glancing once more at the chaos unfurling behind him. "Let's move." As they ran, the shadows hissed behind them, tendrils of fear stretching as if trying to pull them back. People surged around them, crying out, desperate to escape. Each heartbeat felt like an eternity. Emotions mixed. Fear, relief, strength. Maya led the way, darting into a narrow alleyway, away from the nightmare in the street. Julio followed closely, heart racing, adrenaline surging. They emerged into a dimly lit space, the noise of the city muffled like a shelter from a storm. "Where are we?" Lisa panted, eyes wide with concern. "It's a safe house, somewhere we can regroup," Maya said breathlessly. "But we're not out of danger yet." As they leaned against the wall, catching their breath, everything shifted. A flickering light above them cast moving shadows, mingling with their harsh breaths. "What do you know?" Julio pressed, urgency licking at him like flames. Maya met his gaze, her voice steady, despite the weight of what was to come. They were after me because I discovered the truth about Vincent. He wasn't just a petty criminal. He's involved in something bigger, a web of lies that led all the way back to—" Her voice faded, a lump growing in her throat. "To what?" Julio wanted answers, each word radiating the desperation and fear that coursed through his veins. "To our family," Maya whispered. "It's time for the truth to come out." The weight of it all rested heavy around them. Moments passed, uncertainty hanging thick in the air. They had escaped the storm for now, but Julio sensed that what lay ahead would test everything they were. Then, in the distance, sirens grew louder, a reminder of the chaos still unfolding beyond the shadows. Ben's small voice broke through. "Are we gonna be okay, Dad?" Julio knelt, meeting his son's eyes. "We'll figure it out. Together." But deep down, doubt nagged at him. Could they truly unravel the lies that bound them? As he held Ben close, he felt the warmth of family, and that flicker of hope surged anew. Yet, just as hope took root, a shadow broke through the alley, silhouetted against the dim light. They turned, fear wrapping around their hearts, wondering what new threat lurked just beyond their fragile sanctuary. For every twist they uncovered, one truth seemed to spin deeper into shadows. Only time would reveal the final pieces of the puzzle, but for now, they needed to hold on to hope as tightly as they could. This story isn't over yet. Now, before you go, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to boost the algorithm. Let's get this story to more people who need to hear it. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait 1 second more to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this all unfolds. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel. Your participation can make a huge difference. Let